Melbourne Tram history, 1884 to 1907. Down to the wire. In the early days of Melbourne's tram network there were a variety of players, private, municipal and even Victorian railways, who generally built isolated, single-line systems to meet niche demand. From the beginning, however, the heavy lifting will be done by the cable tram network, designed and built by the Melbourne Tramway Trust, a coalition of 12 municipal councils established by an Act of the Colonial Parliament. The private Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company will provide rolling stock and operate services under a 30-year franchise agreement, not unlike the franchise granted to Yarra Trams today. The 20th of December, 1884. Property developer Charles Henry James opens the Fairfield Horse Tramway from the future Fairfield Park Station, along Wingrove and Station Streets, and terminating at Mansfield Street. James built the line to serve his Fairfield Park Estate residential development. Fairfield Park Station, later renamed Fairfield, will not officially open until 1888. The 11th of November, 1885. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Richmond Cable Tram from Burke Street, along Spencer and Flinders Streets, Wellington Parade and Bridge Road, and terminating on the western side of Hawthorn Bridge. This line provides a link between Melbourne's two main rail termini, Flinders Street and Spencer Street stations, at a time when the two had no other direct connection. The 2nd of October, 1886. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the North Fitzroy Cable Tram from Spencer Street, along Collins and MacArthur Streets, Victoria Parade, Brunswick Street and St George's Road, and terminating at Barclay Street. The 22nd of November, 1886. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Victoria Street Cable Tram, branching from the North Fitzroy Cable Tram at Brunswick Street, running along Victoria Parade and Victoria Street, and terminating on the western side of Victoria Bridge. The 10th of August, 1887. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Clifton Hill Cable Tram from Spencer Street, along Burke, Nicholson, Gertrude and Smith Streets, and Queen's Parade, and terminating on the southern side of Northcote Bridge. The 30th of August, 1887. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Nicholson Street Cable Tram, branching from the Clifton Hill Cable Tram at Gertrude Street, running along Nicholson Street, and terminating at Park Street. The 1st of October, 1887. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Brunswick Cable Tram from Flinders Street, along Elizabeth Street, Royal Parade and Sydney Road, and terminating at Moreland Road. The 12th of December, 1887. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Collingwood Cable Tram from Swanston Street, along Lonsdale, Russell, Lygon, Elgin and Johnston Streets, and terminating on the western side of Johnston Street Bridge. The 28th of December, 1887. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Kew Horse Tramway from the terminus of the Victoria Street Cable Tram, along Barkers Road and High Street, and terminating at Parkhill Road, at the entrance to Kew, later Boroondara, Cemetery. The 30th of March, 1888. The Beaumaris Tramway Company opens the first section of the Beaumaris Horse Tramway from Cheltenham Station, along Charman and Belcombe Roads, Tramway Parade and Beach Road, and terminating at Reserve Road. The 11th of October, 1888. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Brighton Road Cable Tram from Flinders Street, along Swanston Street, St Kilda and Brighton Roads, and terminating at Brunning Street. The 26th of October, 1888. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Prahran Cable Tram, branching from the Brighton Road Cable Tram on St Kilda Road, running along Domain Road, Park Street, Torak Road, and Chapel Street, and terminating at Carlisle Street. The 20th of January, 1889. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company extends the Brighton Road Prahran Cable Trams from Flinders Street, along Swanston Street, to Queensbury Street, including a branch connection to the Collingwood cable tram at Lonsdale Street. Brighton road trams terminate at Queensbury Street, while Prahran trams through run to Abbotsford along the Collingwood cable tram. The 21st of January, 1889. The Caulfield Tramway Company opens the Glen Horse Tramway from Elstonwick Station along Glen Road and terminating at Glen Station. The 9th of February, 1889. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the North Carlton Cable Tram, branching from the Collingwood Cable Tram on Elgin Street, running along Rathdown Street and terminating at Park Street. The 15th of February, 1889. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Toorak Cable Tram, branching from the Prahran Cable Tram at Chapel Street, running along Toorak Road and terminating at Irving Road. The 28th of February, 1889. The Beaumaris Tramway Company opens the second section of the Beaumaris Horse Tramway from Sandringham Station along Station Street and Beach Road and terminating at Belcombe Road. The 1st of March, 1889. The Northern Tramway Company opens the Coburg Horse Tramway from the terminus of the Brunswick Cable Tram, running along Sydney Road and terminating at Gaffney Street. April 1889. By this time, the Caulfield Tramway Company has opened the Caulfield Horse Tramway, branching from the Glen Horse Tramway on Glen Road, running along Kooyong, Glen Eira, and Cambrook Roads and Station Street, and terminating at Caulfield Station. The section between Hawthorn Road and Caulfield Station was only operated on race days. The 17th of April, 1889. The Beaumaris Tramway Company opens the final section of the Beaumaris Horse Tramway from Reserve Road, along Beach Road, to Belcombe Road. The 14th of October, 1889. The Box Hill and Doncaster Tramway Company opens the Box Hill Electric Tramway, the first electric tram in Australia, from Whitehorse Road, along Station Street, and what will eventually become Tram Road, and terminating at Doncaster Road. Late 1889. By this time, services on the Glen and Caulfield Horse Tramways have ceased. The Caulfield Tramway Company had collapsed in September. (1890). Sometime this year, property developer Charles Henry James closes his Fairfield Horse Tramway. The 7th of January, 1890. Soon after taking over on this date, the new Caulfield Tramway Company reopens the Glen and Caulfield Horse Tramways, with services on the latter only as far as Bamborough Road, except on race days. The 27th of January, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Hawthorn Horse Tramway from the terminus of the Richmond Cable Tram, along Hawthorn Bridge and Burwood Roads, Power Street, and Riversdale Road, and terminating at Auburn Road. The 18th of February, 1890. The Clifton Hill, Northcote, and Preston Tramway Company opens the Northcote Cable Tram, the only privately owned and operated cable tram in Melbourne, from the northern side of Northcote Bridge, along High Street, and terminating at Dundas Street. City-bound passengers had to alight, walk across Northcote Bridge and board a Clifton Hill cable tram on the other side, to complete their journey. The 3rd of March, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the North Melbourne Cable Tram, branching from the Brunswick Cable Tram on Elizabeth Street, running along Victoria, Errol, Queensbury and Abbotsford Streets and Flemington Road, and terminating at Flemington Bridge Station. The 10th of March, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Zoo Horse Tramway, interchanging with the Brunswick Cable Tram at Gatehouse Street, running along the Avenue, MacArthur Road and Elliott Avenue, and terminating at Melbourne Zoo. The 18th of April, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the West Melbourne Cable Tram, branching from the Brunswick North Melbourne Cable Trams on Elizabeth Street, running along Lonsdale, Spencer and Abbotsford Streets, and rejoining the North Melbourne Cable Tram at Queensbury Street. The 16th of June, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the South Melbourne Cable Tram, branching from the Clifton Hill Victoria Street Cable Trams on Collins Street, running along Market and Queensbridge Streets, City Road, Clarendon, Park, Montague and Bridport Streets, and Victoria Avenue, and terminating at Beaconsfield Parade. The 20th of June, 1890. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Port Melbourne Cable Tram, branching from the South Melbourne Cable Tram at Clarendon Street, running along City Road, Crockford, Bay and Beach Streets, and terminating at Princes Street. June 1891. The Box Hill and Doncaster Tramway Company closes the Box Hill Electric Tramway. After numerous, acrimonious disputes with owners of land through which the tramway runs, including 2 instances of tracks being torn up resulting in unreliable schedules, the company went into receivership. The 27th of October, 1891. The Melbourne Tramway and Omnibus Company opens the Windsor and St Kilda Beach Cable Tram, branching from the Prahran Cable Tram on Chapel Street, running along Wellington and Fitzroy Streets, the Esplanade, and Ackland Street, and terminating at Barclay Street. Save for infill connections in Lonsdale Street and across Northcote Bridge in the 1920s, this marks the maximum extent of Melbourne's cable tram network. The 25th of February, 1892. The Doncaster and Box Hill Electric Road Company reopens the Box Hill Electric Tramway. George Thompson had bought the assets of the Box Hill and Doncaster Tramway Company, but poor relations with landowners continued with tracks fenced off and electric line poles cut down to interfere with services. Thompson sold on to Richard Serple, who formed the new company to operate the line. The 7th of July, 1893. The Clifton Hill Northcote and Preston Tramway Company closes the Northcote Cable Tram. The company was making heavy losses and couldn't continue. The tracks revert to the Northcote Council, and the rolling stock and other assets are taken over by the English, Scottish and Australian Bank. The 7th of April, 1894. Private investor Patrick Pearce Kelly reopens the Northcote Cable Tram, under lease from the English, Scottish and Australian Bank. The 6th of January, 1896. The Box Hill Electric Tramway closes permanently. Richard Serple had failed to make the service profitable and leased it to Henry Hilton for $1 a week, but he also couldn't make the line pay. In 1901, part of the line's right-of-way will finally be gazetted as Tram Road. The 9th of October, 1897. Services cease on the Glen Huntly and Caulfield Horse Tramways. The new Caulfield Tramway Company had defaulted on its mortgage to the Royal Bank in January 1893. The bank had reluctantly taken over operation of the lines the following April, and made repeated, unsuccessful attempts to sell the company as a going concern. The 27th of November, 1897. Private investor Patrick Pearce Kelly abandons his lease and closes the Northcote Cable Tram. The 23rd of March, 1901. The Northcote Council reopens the Northcote Cable Tram. In early 1901, the council purchased the assets of the defunct Clifton Hill Northcote and Preston Tramway Company from the English, Scottish and Australian Bank. The line will be unsuccessfully run by a series of private operators under lease, until finally taken over by the council itself in 1916. The 2nd of November, 1901. The Caulfield, Elsternwick and Malvern Tramway Company reopens the Caulfield Horse Tramway between Elsternwick Station and Caulfield Station, with services only running beyond Hawthorne Road on race days. The new company had purchased the tramway's assets from the Royal Bank in early 1901. The 21st of December, 1901. The Caulfield, Elsternwick and Malvern Tramway Company reopens the Glen Huntly Horse Tramway between Kooyong Road and Glen Huntly Station. The 22nd of August, 1902. The Caulfield, Elsternwick and Malvern Tramway Company ceases operations on the Glen Huntly and Caulfield Horse Tramways. Caulfield Council will purchase the assets of the defunct company in May 1911, but talks with the Prahran and Malvern Tramways Trust about electrification will discourage reopening of the Horse Tramway. The 5th of May, 1906. Victorian Railways opens the first section of the St Kilda to Brighton Electric Street Railway, from a platform at St Kilda Station, along Fitzroy, Grey, Berkeley and Mitford Streets, Broadway, Ormond Road, St Kilda Street, and the Esplanade, and terminating at Park Street. The second electric tramway in Melbourne, and the only broad-gauge tram. The line actually connects to the heavy rail tracks at St Kilda Station. The 11th of October, 1906. The North Melbourne Electric Tramway and Lighting Company opens the electric Essendon line, running from Flemington Bridge Station, along Mount Alexander and Pascoe Vale Roads, Fletcher Street, and Mount Alexander Road again, and terminating at Keilor Road. The Moonee Ponds branch line also opens, branching from the Essendon line on Mount Alexander Road, running along Puckle Street, and terminating at Moonee Ponds Station. The 11th of October, 1906. The North Melbourne Electric Tramway and Lighting Company opens the electric Maribyrnong line, branching from the Essendon line on Mount Alexander Road, running along Victoria Street, Racecourse, Epsom, Union and Maribyrnong Roads, and terminating at the Saltwater River, later renamed the Maribyrnong. The 22nd of December, 1906. Victorian Railways completes the St Kilda to Brighton Electric Street Railway, from Park Street, along the Esplanade and South Road, and terminating at Brighton Beach Station. The 7th of March, 1907. A fire at the Elwood depot of the St Kilda to Brighton Electric Street Railway destroys the entire fleet of broad-gauge trams, forcing a closure of the line and replacement with an omnibus service. The 17th of March, 1907. Victorian Railways reopens the St Kilda to Brighton Electric Street Railway. Second-hand electric tramcars were purchased from Sydney and hastily adapted for the broad-gauge line. Coming next. Melbourne Tram History, 1910 to 1920. Trust me, I'm a tramway.